Hello, NAI. Welcome to the S&P for the week. I'm Song. I am the S in the S&P. I'm your conferences and engagement manager. And
the P in S&P, I'm Paul. I'm joining you live from Fort Collins, Colorado. Cleveland is obviously behind me because that's where our national conference is going to be. Song, I have to say that our satellite office in Salt Lake City is looking as great as ever right there behind you.
I know. I didn't know that there's palm trees in Salt Lake City.
Well, actually, I missed them when I visited the satellite office last month.
I know. Actually, Paul, I am in Mexico, and I don't know if you can really see all that.
Yes, Song, we can see it. Everybody can see the palm trees in the water in Mexico where you are right now.
Water. And, so I'm helping a group with an incentive program in the glorious and super lovely Riviera Maya. We're at this 5-star hotel, and, there's bougainvillea over every balcony, and the grounds are meticulously landscaped. And of course, then we have the ocean right there. And I'm thinking of, it's May, it's Mental Health Awareness Month. And, one of the reasons why these luxury hotels have such amazing ambiance is because they bring in so much of nature to make it very zen, and when people enter and there's this, just these meticulous gardens, it really does have such a calming effect on people. And which is nice for me, right? I'm checking in like 300 people and they're just like, oh my God, this is amazing here. So I think we might have a direct correlation, between mental health and nature.
Well, that is very much the case. And even in small amounts, I mean, here you are in an events management, which is one of the most stressful jobs that there is. And you're at this fancy pants place right here. Even the very manicured approach to nature that you have there, like just being able to experience a little bit of wind, a little bit of the leaves blowing. I'm a huge fan of palm trees. I love palm trees no matter where I am. And so, obviously interpreters know there's a connection between nature and mental health. This is Mental Health Awareness Month. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so we have decided to bring in someone who prepared for us at last year's international conference, which was online, a mental health break for between sessions. And that's Ronna Schneberger, who she guides in this practice called forest bathing, which is pretty amazing and a very intentional way of experiencing nature towards the goal of mental health. So I'm going to speak with Ronna about forest bathing. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to make it, Song, because you're very busy down there in Mexico, but I will be happy to, when I'm done talking to Ronna, I will be happy to come back and report back on how it went.
Well, that would be awesome. Yes, I'm going to go run around here for a bit, but yes, please, let's go to Ronna.
Thank you, Song. I am very pleased right now to be sitting here with Ronna Schneberger. Song's not able to join us for this portion of it, but you and I can talk. I'm already feeling calmer, sort of just talking about the whole notion of forest bathing and how during, you and I are talking right now because it's Mental Health Awareness Month. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And one of the ways to achieve that, obviously, is to be in nature. This is something that interpreters know. So can you just tell me, Ronna, what is forest bathing and how are you involved with it?
So forest bathing originated in Japan in the 1980s when they went from more of a pastoral culture to a tech culture. And in that transition, what they noticed is that people's stress, stress, anxiety, depression, suicide rates, chronic illness, autoimmune issues went through the roof. And so they were thinking, how do we help alleviate a lot of this stress? Because they could see that was the core. So they intuitively thought, let's just get people outside and see if that works. And, obviously, as interpreters, we all know that works. But this was a big thing. And so it did. So what they started to do is to research it in earnest in the early 2000s. And you'll like this research question. So the question that they held was, what happens when people are exposed to trees? It turns out a whole lot of good things happen when people are exposed to trees. So through decades of research now, like I'm sure all of you have read these papers or these articles around the benefits of being in nature. So it helps reduce cortisol levels. It helps balance your blood pressure. It helps regulate your heart rate. It helps move you from your stress side of your nervous system to the calm side of your nervous system. It helps reset your brain. And couple other things. The other thing it does is it also helps you stop ruminating, which, it's easy to do in times like this. It's still a little stressful. It cultivates this feeling of awe, connecting to something bigger than ourselves without a name. And the other cool thing is they figured this out, which is really cool, is that the trees shower themselves with these organic chemical compounds called phytoncides. This is how the tree protects itself from fungal and virus attacks. But what's really cool is because as human beings, we've evolved in the forest, our bodies have a very interesting reaction. So we breathe those phytoncides in, we get them on our skin. And what that does is it boosts our natural killer cell, which is your cancer fighting, tumor fighting white blood cells. So what I find fascinating is that what's good for the tree is also good for my body. So this is where it started. So the Japanese coined this term shinden yoku, which means to bathe in the atmosphere of the forest through our senses, or forest bathing. So the great news is, especially for those of us in northern countries, is you get to wear your clothes. You don't have to take your clothes off and wear a bathing suit. You're really just bathing in the atmosphere of the forest. And what we've come to know now is that is medicine. There is medicine. So the way I came to this, I've been a longtime interpretive guides in Banff National Park. I'm a master interpreter with the Interpretive Guides Association. And so I've been guiding for a very long time, like 25 years. And I've always been interested, as many interpreters are, like, how do we connect people to nature? How do we foster that deeper connection? So, in interpretation, we do it through stories. At that time, I was also exploring how can I take this a little deeper? So I give people sit spots or things like that, or I tune them into their senses and walk them slowly in the forest. I'm also a yoga teacher, meditation teacher. So I was exploring with those methods, and I noticed that people would have these profound moments, like really profound. And I do leadership development at the Banff Center as well, and on my own. And I would use these techniques as a way to shift their brain activity and just, help them get into a deeper state. And just profound things. And I thought, as much as I'd like to think I'm a really great facilitator and interpreter, I'm like, something else is going on here, but I couldn't figure out what it was. And then shortly after that, I was introduced to the Association of Nature and Forest Therapy. So they train forest therapy guides all over the world. And I was in cohort 5, so I got in right at the beginning. And I just thought, oh my God, this is amazing. So what it gave me was a name for what I was doing, because I was already doing this, but I didn't have a name. I didn't know what to call it. And it, it's a little bit of mindfulness, but not entirely. So I started with them, and then I became a trainer. Actually, so I'm a trainer with what we call the ANFT. And I have to say that this is a profound practice. So what's so wonderful about it is that it's really accessible. So I might go on a 3-hour walk. I might go 500 meters or a few hundred yards. Like, I don't go anywhere. During the pandemic, I led these walks through my phone, and we have what's called a standard sequence. And so there's a process we take people through. Some of it's set and some of it is make it up as you go, whatever intuitively you're getting. And it really helped. It really helps people. And what I know now, which I didn't know back then, is the reason that this is so profound is because when we go into nature and we slow down, so we're not filling our minds with information, although that can be fun, but when we have these moments of stillness and quietude, then our bodies and our minds, our systems can start to recalibrate, reset itself back to our natural state of being, which is not stress. That's the good news. It's equanimity, it's peace. And so, but the way we do that is by tuning into our senses, slowing people down and letting them kind of bathe in the atmosphere of the forest through the senses, and which is a bit of a different approach than we use with interpretation. So I don't use any interpretation when I'm doing forest therapy guiding, because I want to get them out of their heads and into their bodies. And the senses are the doorway to being really present. There's many doorways, so this is one. And what I find is that it's very, very accessible for people, especially people who are very intellectual. So they get this reset. And goodness knows we've gone through so much the last couple of years. What if we all need this? And what I really think now, having guided a lot of these walks, even remotely, is that this forest therapy, forest bathing, I use those terms interchangeably, is like the low-hanging fruit of mental health. It really is. It's like, once you know how to do it, it's cheap, it's accessible. I could do it in my backyard. I don't have to go anywhere. So it brings that whole idea of nearby nature as a healing place to the fore in a really, really powerful way. Yeah. And one of the things I was doing during the pandemic is I was working with the BC Parks Foundation, and they were launching nature prescriptions for doctors, doctors promoting nature prescriptions here in Canada. And so I gave them this idea of, why don't I guide them remotely, doctors and nurses, OTs, but a lot of these doctors and nurses, because they're so exhausted, right?
Yeah.
And I get it. So it was one way to support their mental health. And we would have them come on the call. It was only an hour and a half, so it's not even a full walk. It's a taste. And some of them would just be in tears at the end because they came down and they just realized how negatively affected they have been through this whole thing and the stress that they've been holding, but also like this relief that they could be alleviated from that, and they could have this reset in their system.
Yeah.
And the clarity that would come with that. And so that's some of the good news is now doctors and nurses, OTs, psychologists are encouraged to promote nature throughout Canada. And you guys, well, I think in Americans, they have this with the Parks RX program with Drs. Ours is being led by Dr. Melissa Lem. So these fantastic doctors who are bringing nature into the fold, which is just fantastic. Some people will ask, what's the difference if I go out by myself versus with a guide? Why should I take a guide?
Yep.
It's kind of like what we get asked as interpreters, right? And I would say that, yes, absolutely, go out on your own. The more, the better, and you're going to get benefits. But when you come out with the guide, what's going to happen is that there'll be this time that's kind of sandbagged just for you, and we won't get distracted by our phones. And it helps us come down to a deeper level than maybe you can't get to on your own. But once you've learned this practice and you've tried it once or twice, you're like, oh, I can do that. I can do that on my own.
Right.
And then you've got this tool to help you continually do this reset. So that's just a little bit about my story and what I've been up to.
Well, that was great. And, you answered a lot of the questions that I had. But one of the ones that I really want to sort of focus on here is the intentionality of going into nature for the purpose of mental health. And it sounds like that's what this practice of forest bathing is, because there's lots of reasons to go into nature, and mental health is often a side benefit of the different reasons that you might have to go into nature. I mean, maybe you're going on a fishing trip, maybe you're going on an interpretive walk, but to intentionally go into nature with the purpose of achieving better mental health, with that being the number one goal, it feels like that is the sort of intentionality of forest bathing, is to use the senses to connect with nature and to achieve a more peaceful state.
Yeah, it is. Such a great question. When I think I'm going on a canoe trip here tonight, tomorrow, unfortunately it's snowing right now, but that's okay. We think about these trips that we go on, and usually it takes a few days, right? A few days for you to shift gears. And then you get into that sweet spot where you're just like, oh my God, life is great. But with forest bathing, we are very intentional, and we get to that place within an hour. And so the whole idea is that when we tune into our senses and we purposefully slow down and we stay there for a little while, this is where you get this big reset. And so what I tell people, if you've never been on a walk, I'd recommend go trying one. There's guides all over the place now, which is fantastic. But after people come on walks, I often recommend that like a few things will help a lot. So one, turn your phone off. Go have a sit spot for 15 or 20 minutes and just let yourself listen to the wind, the water, or birds. and just give yourself this time and space to just relax. And what the science shows, there's a couple of things that the science shows us, is that when we listen to wind, water, and birds, that helps you reset your nervous system. So for many of us, we're in our sympathetic nervous system. That's the rush, 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 go, 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 push, push, push. Always kind of like adrenal, go, go, go. That's not our natural state. So when we listen to these things, it helps us move into the rest and digest. It's called the parasympathetic nervous system. That's your calm side of your nervous system. So we have both. And then we go in nature and we listen to wind and birds and water. That helps us naturally move over. The same as if you're looking at green or blue. So this past week, I've been in British Columbia training forest therapy guides, and they're, a month ahead in terms of, foliage coming out and stuff. And so I was in this forest and I felt like I was in this like room of green. It was just green everywhere. I felt like I was absorbing green into my being. And I was thinking of that research going, oh, I get it. Like I really get it now. The other thing that the research shows us is that if you were to, let's say, use this as little mini breaks intentionally, to your point, this can really help. So there was a research by Kramer and Kramer. It's I think it was in the 90s, and they were looking at how our attention works. And we have something called direct attention and indirect attention. And the direct attention is when you kind of lock on and you focus, and gosh, it feels so good. It's satisfying. You get stuff done, but you can only do that for a few hours, and then you hit the wall. So usually when we hit the wall, we go on our phones and we get distracted and all those things, which don't help. So what they're said is when you go into nature and you have soft fascination, you feel the air in your skin, you hear the birds, you see the flowers and trees, and you just kind of notice stuff. You're not focused, but you just kind of notice stuff that activates a different region of the brain, so that this front part, our prefrontal cortex, and middle, can reset itself. So by going out at lunch for a 15-minute walk, sitting, listening to things, sometimes I'll focus on tuning into my senses and just watching things move, because I know my mirror neurons will come forward and it will calm my brain down just lightly. Mm-hmm. Then I can feel it. I can feel after 15 to 20 minutes that I've had this little mini reset, and I feel a lot more grounded, a lot more present, and I can focus better. So quickies, like little quickies, go a long way. I do recommend once a month or even once a week. The research shows that you should be outside for 2 hours a week. Really, like that's the prescription that the doctors are prescribing people, is 2 hours a week is just for regular health and well-being. So, maybe you do it in mini steps, right? You do 15 minutes today, 15 tomorrow, 15 later, and then maybe once a month or every couple of weeks or whenever, you go for a half a day or full day. Go do something a bit longer. You go for your hike, you go fishing, you go skiing, mountain biking, whatever. But these little minis, right, they make a big difference. And if you're really stressed, I recommend going out with a forest therapy guide for at least a 2 to 3 hour program, because that's when you're going to feel the reset in your nervous system. I did this a lot during the pandemic, and remember, all of your listeners can remember that day that the world shut down, right? Was it March 13th or something like that? And remember how your nervous system, your lungs, like the breath was taken right out of you. I felt my diaphragm close, and that's a nervous system response. And we went outside with my family every day because we were so stressed out, just to help us calm down. And then I started leading walks, and that just helped resource my nervous system so much. Now, after doing this on a very regular basis, more than before, I feel like my nervous system is resourced, and there's like this calm reservoir in there. And yes, things are picking up and it's stressful, but there's this reservoir. So I really am seeing a lot of this mental health. Yeah, sure. It does have to do with mindset. It has to do with being positive and having gratitude. But there's these physiological responses in our body that are related to it, that we need to take care of our nervous system and calm down, which will help reset our brain so we can think better. So the forest is the perfect place to do this, because your bodies know what to do. You don't have to be good at it. You don't have to even like it, but your body will start to reset itself back to that peaceful place.
Well, and you referenced the forest, and I've kept you longer than I meant to already here, but I did have one more question for you, which is, you mentioned the forest, and I hear forest bathing, and I think, I picture myself in Muir Woods surrounded by redwood forest, right? And just, totally ensconced in just nothing but nature. But if you don't have access to that, especially for these little
Oh,
15 minutes
yeah,
interludes,
it doesn't have to be forest.
can you go out on the deck and just look at trees,
Absolutely.
out the window,
Absolutely.
something like that?
Yeah. So this is a great, thank you for asking this question. It's such a good question. So you're right. I like right here, I just have a few aspen trees in my yard. So I will sit on my deck and I will do these techniques of listen to the wind, the air, and the birds, or I'll watch things move right off my deck. And I can feel that, but you don't have to be in a forest either. Like I've trained guides in the prairies. I've trained guides on the, who do these things on the ocean or on lakes. And so once you learn a few of these techniques, it works like a charm, right? Listening to the lapping of water, that's also deeply calming.
Yeah.
We give what we call invitations. So they're not activities, but we're inviting people into an experience. And I gave this one last week. I was at a lake and I just let them sit there on the dock watching the water for 10 minutes. And they were just so relaxed after. They were just, whoa. So yeah, it can be done in many spaces. Our bodies know what to do in many spaces.
Perfect. Ronna, where can people find you and your practice online and on social media?
Yeah, well, I'm Forest Fix. It's forestfix.ca. And I don't do a lot of social media because
That's
I'm too
okay.
busy outside. It's Forest
Maybe
Fix
that's why
Canada.
you're healthy
Yeah,
mentally.
but if people want to go on a walk, like, your membership is all over North America. What I would really recommend you do is go to the Association of Nature and Forest Therapy, their website, and there's a map and you can find guides in your area, and just try this. It'd be awesome to try. And I know as an interpreter, obviously, interpreters can't do this whole sequence. They're not trained, but what they can do is by slowing it down, maybe letting people walk quietly for 5 or 10 minutes or giving them a sit spot or, those little things that you can do. It has to be framed right. But but check out Association of Nature and Forest Therapy. I think it's .earth. And there's a map there, and go check out a guide in your area. I think your membership would love it, and it will be deeply nourishing for them, especially as they go into their busy season.
Ronna, thank you so much. This has been such a great conversation for Mental Health Awareness Month, and I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to talk with me about this, and look forward to sharing it with our membership.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Ronna. You too.
Paul, thank you so much for doing that interview with Ronna. It's such important work that she's doing. We know that there is a calming effect that nature, even if it's just, if you're landlocked and you're in an apartment and you don't have any balcony or outside, you can always bring a little bit in. And, I encourage everybody to have houseplants at the very least. It's very helpful for my mental health. And, everybody take some time to just breathe, go outside.
Yeah.
Well,
so Ronna and I said this in the interview, right? Like you picture this, you hear the term forest bathing and you picture yourself, ensconced in the Pacific Northwest somewhere, just, with the misty forest and, just nothing but nature around you. But you can experience this in small ways. I'm going to go out on the deck here at NAI, and, we've got some trees right off of our deck here on the second floor. And I'm going to maybe just look at the leaves a little bit and hang out and enjoy that, because it's very definitely, interpreters know this already. Exposure to nature is good for our mental health. It is Mental Health Awareness Week, and we could all use a little bit of the resetting, that being intentional about hearing the sounds, experiencing nature, feeling the feels of nature, all of that, brings us to a place of better mental health. So, it's something that is really valuable for us to do. And it's something that interpreters are really good at facilitating.
Yep, absolutely. Well, until next time, NAI, we will, keep on doing what you're doing. Happy May.
Song, I hope you make it back from Mexico safely. I can tell you right now, at the time of this recording, it was 87 degrees yesterday in Fort Collins, Colorado. And today it's in the 40s, snowing, and we're expecting snow. So so this is insane.
I know. I just stay the weekend. It's a mental health break.
Perfect.
All right.
Well, happy Mental Health Awareness Month to everyone watching. And Song, we'll see you here in Fort Collins very soon.
All right. See you.